let's get on to our craft for today. We have a couple different ones we can do. So first, if you're not afraid of glitter, we have a glitter globe of sorts. All you need is a jar, about 3/4 full of water, and glitter, or glitter glue even. The glitter glue, I used maybe 2 milliliters. You might want more. It thickened the water a little bit so that the glitter falls slower. But even if you don't have glitter, you can use cut up pieces of tin foil or even a 3x5 card and maybe colored water. And that works pretty well too. And if you don't want to make a mess or don't have jars or just want to keep it nice and simple, I have a printout. So you can color this out, cut it out, and then get a brad pin or a brass fastener. It has these 2 pieces that can pull apart. What you're gonna do is stick them through your clock, through the hands and the clock, and then take the 2 pieces and pull them apart to fasten all of these pieces together. Now just don't do it too tightly, or like mine, it'll be a little stiff and hard to move. Or if you want to set them at a certain time, then do it as tightly as you can. But yeah, so you have 3 different varieties you can choose from, or just listen along if that's good with you. So we have our lesson. If you have your Bibles, you can turn to Mark chapter 5, and we'll begin in verse 21. All right, Mark chapter 5, verse 21. And when Jesus was passed over again by ship unto the other side, much people gathered unto him, and he was nigh unto the sea. And behold, there cometh one of the rulers of the synagogue, Jairus by name, and when he saw him, he fell at his feet, and besought him greatly, saying, My little daughter lieth at the point of death. I pray thee, come and lay thy hands on her, that she may be healed, and she shall live. And Jesus went with him, and much people followed him, and thronged with him. So last time, we learned about someone who had came to Jesus and didn't even ask for him to come and lay hands or anything, just say the word and he's healed. Now this is a little bit different. He's not exactly lacking faith, though that might be a factor, but this is a father begging Jesus to save his daughter. Imagine if the roles were reversed and instead of a child, it was one of your parents who was dying in the hospital, and you came to the only physician that you knew could heal your mom or dad. That's what Jairus was doing. He came to the only person he knew who could save his daughter from death. And Jesus didn't wait for him to have faith. He came immediately. Let's go to verse 25. And a certain woman, which had an issue of blood 12 years, and had suffered many things of many physicians, and had spent all that she had, and was nothing bettered, but rather grew worse, when she had heard of Jesus, came in the press behind, and touched his garment. For she said, If I may touch but his clothes, I shall be whole. And straightway the fountain of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of that plague. And Jesus, immediately knowing in himself that virtue had gone out of him, turned him about in the press, and said, Who touched my clothes? Now this woman who came and had some disease with her blood, she didn't want to interrupt this procession, this crowd going to save this little girl. She just wanted to come. She knew that if she could just touch Jesus' clothes, just touch the hem of his garment, she would be healed. Just as inconvenienced, as convenient as possible to the crowd. She's the one who just came in and pressed in as best she could without stopping anyone. But Jesus is the one who stopped. Now remember, all this time, they stopped to talk with this woman, and Jairus' daughter is still dying. The clock is still ticking. And it's like the doctor that you need to save your parents stops to talk with this woman who's simply taking her medicine. Like there's this issue that we could come back to later, and then there's this issue that has a time clock on it and it's running out. In fact, after Jesus had stopped and talked with her, he told her, and he said unto her, Daughter, thy faith hath made thee whole. Go in peace, and be whole of thy plague. And while he yet spake, there came from the ruler of the synagogue's house certain which said, Thy daughter is dead. Why troublest thou the master any further? And as soon as Jesus heard the word that was spoken, he saith unto the ruler of the synagogue, Do not be afraid, or be not afraid, only believe. So the time had run out. The clock had run out. There was no more chance that Jairus could save his daughter. There was no physician in the world who could come and bring her back from death. But Jesus, the one who stopped, continued to answer his request, continued to answer his prayer, even though it already was past the deadline, past the time of no return. Yet Jesus continued on. And Jesus came to the house, to the Jairus' house, where his daughter was now presumably dead. And he suffered no man to follow him, save Peter and James and John, the brother of James. And he cometh to the house of the ruler of the synagogue, and seeth the tumult and them that wept and wailed greatly. And when he was come in, he saith unto them, Why make ye this ado, and weep? The damsel is not dead, but sleepeth. And they laughed him to scorn. But when he had put them all out, he taketh the father and the mother of the damsel, and them that were with him, and entereth in where the damsel was lying. And he took the damsel by the hand, and said unto her, Talitha cumi, which is being interpreted, Damsel, I say unto thee, arise. And straightway the damsel arose and walked, for she was of the age of 12 years, and they were astonished with a great astonishment. And he charged them straitly that no man should know it, and commanded that something should be given her to eat. So the deadline was already reached. There was no point of bringing her back from death. Yet Jesus continued on and still granted his request. Whether she was in a coma or actually dead, Jesus did bring her back. Jesus' deadline, his timeline, is not our own. We may see a deadline and we may pay for what we hope to avoid. Maybe a bill came or we relate to it, but even when our timeline is past, when we have seemed to come and when Jesus seemed to not answer our prayers, to allow us to meet the consequence we hope to avoid, Jesus can still answer our prayers. Sometimes it's in an unexpected way, but it will be in the way that best brings him glory. It will be in the way that does the most good. So if you grow impatient, we've been in this situation for a few weeks now, for several weeks, and it's uncertain what's going to happen, how much longer it will take. Is Jesus even doing anything? We can be assured that even though it seems like he's being slow, God will do the best for his glory and the best for us in his time, in the perfect time. So have faith and trust him. All right, and remember that you can finish up if you have done your clock to use brass fastener to stick it on. And remember the clock and the time, or you can have your glitter globe of sorts, either variation, and have a sort of makeshift timer for about 15 or 60 seconds, depending on how much you put in. But I hope this will help you to remind you that God has a perfect time, that even when the clock runs out for us, God still may be doing good things.